Hello, Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to Salam Media. I'm Ruwa Shah, and today we're going to talk about the challenges in education that are faced in Kashmir. The first thing that becomes a casualty of Kashmir's uncertainty is education. Kashmir has been in a series of consistent lockdowns since August 5, particularly when Indian government stripped Kashmir of its partial autonomy. The schools, colleges, educational institutes have forced to remain shut after August 5, particularly. It was followed by a harsh winter that prompted the administration to close down the schools further. Now, after the winter set in Kashmir, when the schools were about to reopen again, the coronavirus pandemic began, and the schools were forced. Education was came to a halt again. Amid all this, the students continue to suffer. At the top of that, the high-speed internet required for online education, which is the means of education that the entire world has resorted to, has been suspended since August. And it comes off as yet another deliberate attempt to deprive the Kashmiri youth from the chance of education. Now, to discuss education in Kashmir, we have a teacher with us and a student who we will be discussing the challenges they face in education in Kashmir with Muneer Alam, who's with us, if we can have him live. Meanwhile, you can watch this video on our social media pages of Salam Media, and you can share this there. If I can just share this video on my own Facebook page so that you guys can see it. We're trying to connect with Mr. Muneer Alam. Now, please stay with us. Meanwhile, we get him on our show right now. Hello and Assalamu alaikum, sir. Welcome to my show.
As we say in Turkish, marhaba.
Merhaba. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. Will you please tell our audience who you are? Will you please introduce yourself?
Well, you have already introduced me. Muneer Alam is the name, and that's enough.
And what do you do? I know that you are a teacher, and what is your profession?
Actually, I am an engineer, and I have done my engineering from NIT, National Institute of Technology, Srinagar,
Right.
erstwhile Regional Engineering College. Long
Right.
back, some 16 years back.
So, you recently started teaching students in Kashmir in an open-air ground, which is called as the Eidgah, which is probably one of the biggest grounds in Kashmir. And you have been all over the news since then. Tell us what prompted you to teach students in a ground.
I'm teaching since 2000. I'm teaching the students of 10+1, 10+2. So from last 2 decades, I'm teaching the students of Valley. Recently, the initiative has been taken just to compensate the loss, the academic loss. And as we say, there is a verse in Holy Quran. It is the last verse of Surah Ankabut. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَهُمْ سُبُلَنَا صدق الله العلي العظيم. The meaning and the translation of the verse goes like this: if my servants will strive in my way, and they will find it. And to this verse, we can have a couplet in Urdu: Muhabbat tumko andaze muhabbat khud sikha di. So come in the love, and you will find the way how to love. Since I love my profession, and it was really, really painful for me to stay back and to stay disconnected with my students. And we say that necessity is the invention of, is the mother of invention.
Right.
So the necessity that the pain, the necessity, all these factors together made me to think some unorthodox way when you are living in the valley, which is always deprived from high speed internet. Even the 2G services are suspended off and on. And from 2019, 5th of August 2019, the media gag, curfew, and clampdown that has brought lots and lots of depression in the students and teacher community. And the stats, if you see the stats from last 11 months, not 11 days of normal academics has been offered to our students in schools, colleges, and in universities. That is ironical.
Right. So you have been teaching for a long time now in Kashmir. Tell us, why did you choose this career option after pursuing engineering in such a reputed college in Srinagar?
See, it was 99 and it was our second semester in Regional Engineering College, and Kargil happened.
The
Everyone
Kargil
knows.
War you are referring to, yes.
So I have lived in 90s, and my schooling and my career has been started in the turmoil.
That was the
In
peak of
1919,
turmoil in the Kashmir region, right?
sorry, pardon, I
I,
couldn't
I,
hear
I was
you.
saying that that period was the peak of turmoil, disturbance in the entire Kashmir Valley.
Exactly, exactly. It was the peak of the disturbance and the continuous disturbance from decades. Uh, the conflict is 75 years old, but the uprising in 90s, I cannot bring that turmoil in words. We are not having the access to internet. There was no internet there was no concept of cell phones. And at that time, it was really difficult to manage to live, and the education is the secondary issue. So it was very difficult. And at that time, it was challenging for me to start something different and to help my students. There were many engineers and doctors in the field. So we are teachers, but I opted to serve my people through teaching and to impart the quality education. That was the main reason.
Right, as you said, sir, in a place like Kashmir, how different is it to, teach students, given that there is always something happening, there is always a phase. We have seen the 90s. I saw personally the 2000 from 2010 to 2014, and still it is continuing. How do you manage to educate students amid all the turmoil?
If we count the years from 2000 to 2020, there had been many big turmoils. Let's start with 2008,
Okay.
Amarnath land rout. Uh, we lost some 4 months of peak session of academics. And I'm recalling an incident of one of my students. I still remember their name, Nasir Bashir, and his sister, Asma Bashir. They used to come to me for studying mathematics, and I used to teach at Bulbul Lankar after the name of Shah Abdur Rahman Bulbul Shah, who is believed to be of Turkish origin, and he
Right.
has came to Kashmir through Silk Route. So we have roots with Turkey. So I will come to the topic. It was 2008, I think it was August, August. I don't remember the month exactly. And the incidents of stone pelting and tear gas shelling and heavy shelling in the choke of Nawakadar. And I came to know my students were trapped in that scene. So how difficult it was for me to bring them out of that dirty situation. And the impact of that situation is still in their and my mind. It is just a beginning. I am quoting year wise, and just after 2008 and 2010. In 2010, the uprising started with the mayhem of kids, school going kids. What
Tufel Muttu, if
impact it
you're
would.
referring to Tufel Muttu's killing, right?
Yes, Tufel Mutu, who resides who used to reside at Sada Kadal. Tufel Mutu, he was He was, I will not say killed, I will say he was murdered. It was a cold-blooded murder. He came for tuitions, I think, to Rajouri Kadal. There is a stadium after the name of Ghani Kashmiri, one of the great poets, Persian poets. And uh, he was caught in some uh,
He
incidents of
was
cross
just a
firing, or I
student
think
who was
suicide.
coming out from a tuition center with his school bag on, and when he was hit by a bullet, and he was killed at that moment. I remember that, sir, very vividly because I myself was a student at that time, and I was
I,
taking tuitions,
I
right?
will correct
So,
you,
as
not
you mentioned that
murder.
students are caught in such dangerous situations that we say, and you yourself said that everybody is facing
Very
trauma. What do you feel that in the students when you teach them, does it reflect in their academics or in their path as a student?
Well, it is reflected in their minds and in their persona, in their personality. They are the children of conflict. They are the children of war zone, and they have been brought up right from 2008, 2000, and 2010. They have been brought up in these situations, and they have strong impact on their brains and personality, and it is very difficult to handle such students. Sometimes they are aggressive in their behavior because they are suffering from many mental disorders, as they have been the spectators. They are seeing it live from their naked eyes, right from their childhood until date.
Right, so now it had been after August 5, for a long time, Kashmir was completely shut down. But when we thought that it would come back to normalcy, the world was hit by this pandemic of the coronavirus. So, how did this pandemic affect education further? And what are you doing as a teacher to compensate the loss that is already so much?
After the abrogation of 300, that article, that famous article 370, I continued with my tuitions. It happened in August. I continued with my tuitions in September, and I would like to add, I was harassed by some mischievous elements, some letters which are with me at my office in my tuition center, that you are not doing a good job, we will kill you.
Oh, so
So
you mean
I was
you were threatened for
I,
continuing to
I
teach
don't think
students?
those letters were authentic. I used the word mischievous elements. I continued in. I have never ever in my life stopped the students and discontinued my classes, even in 2016 term. I asked them to come to my home very early after Fajr, and I never ever stopped them from learning. I have never abandoned my classes. But the pandemic was different situation. If I would have called them, it would have affect them adversely. So I was out of mind, and I was thinking something out of box. First of all, I asked the students to come to my home. Few students came, and I educated them for COVID-19 SOPs and protocols, because I was having the idea, I was having that I will ask them to get out of the houses and to come to some ground or open place. For that, I needed to educate them well, and they cooperated. We started with 5 or 6 students, then to 10 students at my home. And after 10, 15 days, I asked them, if you are interested and if the consent is from your parents, we can start the same in open place. And it was really, I think it was some uh, uh, divine idea that I choose the Eidgah Srinagar, the very famous place. The area has been gifted by one of the saints, Mir Sayyid Ali Hamadani, Rahmatullahi Allah, to Kashmiris. And I thought it is the best way to utilize the gift and to utilize it for the education purpose.
Well, sir, let me tell you that I also see it as a metaphor because, when we use the word Eidgah in Kashmiri language, it means a huge space and opportunity. And that is exactly what you have done, and you have utilized it in its best way. But, sir, please tell us about how safe are students and parents feeling with your new initiative of taking classes in open air, given the political, challenges that we face. There can be things can erupt out of nowhere at any time. So do you think parents are really willing to send students? Do you have that many students in those grounds in Eidgah?
So I will share an information with you. Around 3 lakh people can offer Eid prayers in Eidgah. So it is a huge ground. 3 lakh is a big number, and I need an area for 40 or 50 odd students. So I was successful in identifying a very good area, very good place in the corner of Eidgah, and I started to deliver the classes. I have opted to be very early. We start at 5:15, and the classwork starts at 5:30. It takes some 10-15 minutes to set the class. Students bring their sitting mats or chairs. I have to bring many things, whiteboards, uh, resting supports for whiteboards, markers, dusters, everything. And they also are asked to carry sanitizers to sanitize their hands and the place where they sit. So all the SOPs and protocols are followed. Many parents wait outside the ground for their kids because it is too early. And there is always an apprehension when a student goes out from his home. There is always an apprehension that that uncertainty, that political uncertainty, anything can happen anytime. So for that, I cannot assure you anything. Yes, one thing I can assure that the place is safe for combating COVID-19, and there is no chance of there is no chance of infection from human to human because we follow SOPs in letter and spirit. They say 2 meters, we keep a distance of 4 meters, sometimes 5 meters, because it is a huge ground. But as far as your question that the political uncertainty, for that I am speechless because politics is not in my hand. I am a simple, I will not tell that I am educationist. I am a simple, a common teacher. I'm away from all these political stuffs. Yes, there is a political uncertainty. And when we start in the morning, there is one new, I will add a sarcastic comment, one new feather in the cap, that is jets are flying over our head because there is a war hawks, China India war, and we are we are at the center of this, our state, sorry, our
Right,
UP,
those
UP.
extreme situations that you're explaining to our audience, that how you teach amid all those conditions, it is taking me back to the days when I was your student, sir. And I remember you had hundreds of students in a we I remember our hall used to be full of no less than 300 students in that, wherever you taught us. And seeing you teach comparatively so little number of students now, uh, and yet you continue. I remember you did not only do it for your money. It was your passion. It is always your passion, as far as I know you. And how does it feel from coming back, from teaching hundreds of students to a few in a ground? As a teacher, how do you feel?
See, teaching in a school or a private institution, coaching center is a different story. I still teach hundreds at Zanakatal, but government has regulated role and we are not allowed to raise the number of students to 110, 120. The role in class is still high, but pandemic is a different situation.
Right.
Many students, I will say hundreds, are in pipeline. They are seeking the permission to get in my class, but I have not allowed them yet. I am planning a second batch, and I have limited the class to 50 students only. The main reason is the COVID-19. That is the reason that checked the roll and the number of students in my open air school, or you will say open air class.
Right, so there is a student from Kashmir who has posted a question on our live session, Wasim Mushtaq, and he says students in Kashmir are facing a lot of problems due to delayed degrees, to loss in academics, which ultimately leads to depression. Also, students lose their interest in studies. What would you like to suggest to students facing these problems? I believe it is a general problem that we do not get our degrees as soon as we finish our courses, so it leads to for students to wait a while before they get their degrees.
Let me use his own jargon. He has used Persian. I will also use the quotation of Allama Iqbal, who has given a very beautiful couplet in this context. मुअम्मार हरमबाज तामीर जहां खेज az ख्वाब गिरां खेज.
Would you please
The
translate it
translation
for us?
the translation of the couplet goes like that: O you who constructed the Khane Kaaba, O mankind. The Khane Kaaba was constructed by Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam, but before uh, a prophet, before being a prophet, being a father of prophets, is a man. So, O you mankind who constructed the Khane Kaaba, the house of Allah, now it is the turn to construct the world. And please, and please,
I think we have lost the connection with Muneer sir, and as we try to get him back, this is the problem that we actually are discussing, that there is no high-speed internet in Kashmir, and even Mr. Munir was joining us with his 2G network, which makes things much harder when the entire world has resorted to online education to continue to work. And this is exactly the problem. On 2G, you cannot continue your education, as we could not continue with you. That is exactly what I was trying to explain, sir. Welcome back.
so
We'll get you back.
I talked
As I
with
as
you,
I
and that
Right. I want to tell all those viewers who are watching us. Please put your suggestions, your questions in the comments section. We'll take as many as we can. And we have a very great teacher with us today, Muneer Alam. He is talking about the challenges that he faces in teaching students in Kashmir in those harsh conditions, which is almost impossible. Thank you, sir, for joining us again. So you were talking you were answering the question that I asked you
yeah,
before.
I will continue. For that, it is self-explanatory that I lost the connection. You can understand the speed over here. So it is very difficult to continue online classes. It was self-explanatory and it happened by default. So
Right.
I was talking about the couplet of Allama Iqbal, and I was saying that Allama Iqbal is saying to the constructor, the mankind who constructed the Khane Kaaba, now please get up from this long sleep and construct the world as well. So the persons who are not getting motivated, who are in depression, and who are not get who find difficult to get going, they must have some motive, some purpose, and the biggest purpose of life is my hands. We have a very famous couplet in Urdu, but that is the translation of the ayah of verse of Holy Quran, which states, Minha khalaqnakum wa fiha nu'idukum wa minha nukhrijukum taratan ukhra. Na pucho, zaat hai mitti, meri awqat hai mitti. We have to die. One fine day we will die, and we will be beneath the soil. And before that, we should utilize this soil, these hands which are made of soil, to help people. This is the biggest motivation. The biggest motivation, if there is a pain in your heart to serve the mankind, irrespective of color, creed, or religion, then this motivation will get you going, and you will never feel that depression, and you will never back, because you must be missionary. From this channel, this show, I would like to add, I think it's not relevant, but I would like to add, I have started to watch a serial, Irtugul Ghazi.
Right.
So, yes, Irtugul Ghazi, a Turkish serial. I am very much inspired by the serial, and I think the missionary people, they never care for their families, they never care for their tribes, they only care for the humanity, for their betterment, and for the purpose of happiness of every person, be it Muslim, Christian, Jew, Hindu, or anyone else. So you should be missionary, and if you are missionary, depression will not stop you. And you have to motivate yourself that the purpose of my life is to serve. Let's start from yourself, then your parents, then community, then your nation, then entire world.
Yeah, right. That was a very
That was the
poetic.
question. That was the
That,
answer of the
yes,
question.
that was a very poetic expression, rather motivation for everybody to get up and educate yourselves no matter what. So you have been a student in the 90s, as you said yourself, and 90s was the phase in Kashmir when the armed resistance was at the peak, and all those the situation was not very good. So you saw one of the worst phases of Kashmir, and now we are living through this time, which is also considered as one of the worst times. How would you describe the difference? Would you draw some parallels? Was the time earlier back then worse, or are we living through much more worse times now?
It's getting from bad to worse. But being the child of 90s, the endurance, the ability to cope up with the challenges, that was very low. So now being a mature man, adult, I have rather adjusted and adapted myself with the scenario and the troubles and challenges that are prevailing and the current situations. But it was very difficult for me in 90s, and I think the situation was worst in 90s. Worst. If we subtract the pandemic from last 25 years, I will go for 90s, and 90s was the worst situation because you are not having whereabouts of your nears and dears. You are not having cell phones, no internet. It was always doubtful if the person leaving for school in the morning will he come back or not. And I will add my personal experience rate in 10 plus 1, it was 95, 96. I was not able to attend the class for 1 week in the entire year. The main reason, my parents, my father, my late father Asadullah, he asked me to stay back, don't go to school, because my school was in the heart of city Lal Chowk, and it was the center of the activities of cross firing, bomb blasts, and
Right.
many things. So we were refrained by our parents not to go.
Right. And don't you think that that is, which is like, I'm talking about the statistics that we have after 2016. Parents are a little scared when they send their students out, sir, for education, to school, to coaching centers. And whether, now talking about coaching centers, we have a question from Ibad, and he's asking, why are private coaching centers important when we already pay a huge amount of fees to the schools? Why cannot the schools have standard education so that we do not need to pay twice for the same courses?
See, you are asking the wrong question to the wrong person, but I will still try to manage the answer, because I'm not the part of school education. Yeah, but I agree that if there is a school in place, there is no need of coaching. And it is the failure of schools. It is the gross failure of government schools as well as private schools who are unable to deliver. But at
Right.
the same time, I would add the difficulties the schools are facing. You are not having the proper academic calendar. Everything is uncertain. Anything can happen anytime. So if they fix an academic calendar, suppose there are 150 working days, and you are never sure. uh, you have to cut 0 and 5. There could be 1 working day, or there could be 15 working days. So at that time, again, I lost the connection.
Yes, we can hear you. Please
Are
continue.
you hearing me?
Yes, I can hear you.
So I was from 150 days of academic calendar. When you lose 100 plus days, what else is left? So it has become a compulsion in this conflict zone to have a coaching center, a tuition center, a private tutor in your locality or far away, who will help you to compensate the academic loss. That is one of the reasons.
Right, sir. Uh, we spoke enough about education, and I want to mention about your personal journey from from starting as a student when you were in NIT and when you lost your father, and how difficult that entire time was for you. And I know and remember you when you uh, narrated those stories of your hardships to us. That was one of the most inspiring lessons that we all got from you, and to me personally it was very inspiring, sir. And now you are here, when you are completely self-made, and now you are being selfless. Have you you're selflessly teaching people, and I know that what other private teachers who give it coaching to students, how they make a lot of money, and how you are very philanthropic in your own way, sir. uh, Please tell us about that journey from rigs to rages, rigs to riches. I think rags to riches. I think that was the headline. Sorry, yes, that was the
So,
headline that the story had.
yeah,
And
in 2013, I
yes,
remember.
yes, please tell us about that.
A long journey. I think it will take hours. I
Yeah,
will
just
cut it
just
short.
a little motivational. Yes.
Started tutoring the students when I was in class 10. So if I count those years as well, I have been teaching from last 24 years. But I officially made it from 2000 when I started to teach the students at my home, starting with some 20 students. Uh, 10 plus 1 was the class I started with, and in 2001, the students were in class 12, and the journey continued till 2005, 2006. Everything was okay, and it was 2006, that fateful night when I lost my uh, real friend, my mentor, my father, and things changed drastically from very happy and uh, sharing almost no responsibility of home. I was at the helm of affairs, and it was very difficult for me to carry my career as well as my profession. And by the grace of Allah, I I don't think that it's the credit that goes to me only. There are my well-wishers, my mother, my family, my brother, my sister, who are always with me. They patted my back. Being eldest in the family, it was my responsibility to carry my family along. And Alhamdulillah, those harsh and struggling days ended, and Alhamdulillah, it is a rather better and I think struggle less life.
It is a very inspirational story of yours, sir, and we really thank you. We're really grateful for the work that you're doing for the entire Kashmiri students community. And thank you so much. I especially want to thank you for joining us tonight. I know it's very late in Kashmir right now, and with such low speed
The,
internet, you
well,
were able to join us.
the has
It was
so the calendar has changed. It is 12:10. So
the next day. I agree. I'm really sorry, but I hope to
no, no,
have
it,
another conversation with you soon, because this seems like we can keep on talking about a lot of things with you. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us, and have a great night. Thank you.
as you say in Turkish, bulbule. Thank you
Gule,
very
gule.
much.
Thank you so much, sir. Well, that was Muneer Alam, a teacher and owner of a private coaching institute. Now, He was sharing his experiences as a teacher in Kashmir. And now we have a student, Isa Ahmad Khan, with us, who will be joining and telling us, sharing his experience of being a student in a place like Kashmir. Now, if we can have Isa with us right now.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam, Isa. Thank you so much for joining me.
It was a pleasure for me.
Can you please introduce yourself?
Okay, so I am Isa Ahmad Khan and I'm from Kashmir.
Right.
I'm an
You
18-year-old student. I'm an 18-year-old student currently in class 12. And I have a dream to help my people achieve their dreams. And I believe it can only be done through education and knowledge.
right. Isa, what are your most difficult challenges as a student in Kashmir?
Okay, so being a student in Kashmir has hardships with it. We've been facing crisis for as long as I can remember, but we have always defeated it. Here, classes 10th, 11th, and 12th are considered as milestones, and you have to pass that with grace. You might be knowing that as well. And that in itself is a challenge for most of the students due to lack of facilities. And being under constant lockdowns and clampdowns has made us strong and more determined towards chasing and fulfilling our dreams. You see, I am a kind of a guy who needs to dig deep into a topic in order to understand it. Internet was a perfect tool for me as it gave me answers to all my queries. However, after the incident, that August 5 incident, I had to force myself to look deeper into books rather than internet as it was snapped. And I feel like that hard work did help me more than the internet did. And honestly, that was kind of fun.
Right. Isa, you mentioned about the challenges and online, how important internet is. The entire world after the pandemic, coronavirus pandemic, has resorted to online education. All the educational institutes around the world are continuing to, are continuing education online. Kashmir does not have, is deprived of that privilege. As we
Yes.
speak, there is a low speed internet and high speed internet is restricted. So, do you think if there was high speed internet, you would not have faced such difficulty, and it would not have been a hurdle in your ventures?
I think that is obvious. If we had high-speed internet, it would have helped us a lot. See, during this pandemic, the online classes had to be lifeline for the students. But here in Kashmir, due to restricted internet, they are not working. While even the most remote parts of the world are enjoying high-speed internet, we are limited to only 50 kilobytes per second mobile
Right.
internet speed. And this low-speed internet has made online classes toxic. We have a teacher at our tuition. He teaches us physics, and he himself says that he was never satisfied with the way he taught us in that Zoom classes, in those online classes.
So you
And
did
this,
have some Zoom class online. You
yes,
did attend some classes.
yes,
Okay.
we did attend some classes, but the teachers, they say it themselves that they are not satisfied with it, and the students are not able to understand the lectures the way that they previously would.
So how do you study? Explain to us, Isa. Amid all this, there is this the pandemic, and then there are already Kashmir was in a lockdown. How do you study, or do you study at all?
I do study, and studying for my 11th class exams that were last year, it was very hard for me. There were no internet, no teachers since the mobile was cut off for about 20 days or a month, and there was no guidance for me of any sorts. And I had to complete the whole syllabus on my own. It had a huge impact on my studies and subsequently on my grades. If I had been able to study as the students in other parts of the country, I'm sure my grades would have been improved by a percent or two. But if you look at it through a different angle, now I know how my parents used to study without these facilities. So I guess it's a plus point.
So, Isa, you as a student have excelled in your studies. I believe you have qualified the SAT exams, which are very
Yes.
difficult, and very few students qualify that. Uh, was it more difficult for you? Do you think if you were not in Kashmir and if you were in some other part of the world, would it have been equally difficult for you?
Okay. Uh, as you told, I've been planning for studying abroad, and I just gave that SAT exam and I qualified it. And this will maybe help me achieve my dream. As for the question, if studying outside Kashmir would have been better for me, well, in these years of my life, I have understood one basic thing, that nothing can stop us from learning as long as we don't stop ourselves, as long as we don't give up on our dreams. Studying here or abroad until now, I don't think that it would have made any difference. See,
Yes,
education is not only about exams and stuff, but also about the experience. And I don't think any other place in the world would have been better for me to gaining the experience that I have gained here in my homeland.
right. That is a very inspirational thing you said, that nothing can stop us from learning. Isa, you're, I believe, 18 years old, and what has been the most difficult time for you in Kashmir if you go back to the year, later after 2010, if you remember that time?
Okay,
Which has been the
I I have a vague idea about 2010 lockdown. I don't remember to going school at most of the time. Uh, I do remember 2016. I was in class 8, and this lockdown was there, as it's in Kashmir, and internet was snapped at that time also. The mobile phones were snapped, and but I don't think that was as hard for me as last year was, because last year was more crucial for me. It was my 11th standard, rather than that 2016, which was in which I was, I guess, in 8th. So that was the most difficult part in the history of myself.
Okay, so do you think there has been any year of your academics so far where you completed your 1 year of education without any hurdle, without any problem, without any shutdown or any curfews?
Well,
Do you
uh,
remember going to school for an entire year without any problem?
no, I don't remember going to our schools entire for without any problems. But during the years, I guess 2018 and 2017, there were minor curfews, like for 1 day or two, and that did not affect us a lot, because we know how to deal with that. It was nothing as compared to that 2016 lockdown. So I guess we can say that I attended the school for the whole year.
Right, Isa. Now, your academic session is, I think, is it over? Is your this session over, or there is some more
No,
master?
I have to give my class 12th exams in November, so this session is not over yet.
And are you continuing your coaching education, like to
Yes,
go
I
to?
am continuing. Yes.
And how are you going, and where are you studying?
Okay, so uh, I am a student of Muneer sir,
Hmm.
and he told us about these open air classes, and that's where I am studying right now for tuitions.
How do you feel studying in an open air class in a ground? Is it? It's of course different. It's
Yes,
like never before. But
it is a
how different is it from the usual?
it is something that we've never experienced before. Since I've gained consciousness, since I have attended school, I've been, in a way, I've been locked in four walls in a school with benches and the teacher teaching, and we didn't have to move at all. The teacher would come and go from the classes, the traditional style. Now, these open air classes, we have to bring our own chairs. We are not locked in that four wall, stone wall classrooms. And the morning, it seems very fresh, and fresh start for our day cannot be better than the classes, I guess.
But that is about one subject, and I believe you're taking other subjects as well. Are other teachers taking inspiration from your current classes? Are teachers coming up with other innovative or ideas that they can continue teaching in amid whatever present circumstances we
Well,
have?
I think they are. I got an information about a teacher. He's also a mathematics teacher, and after Munir sir did this open year classes, he also tried to do the same in a garden near his locality. So I think the teachers are following this, and I think it will be a huge boost for education in Kashmir.
Musa, have you ever been out of Kashmir and have you ever experienced what it means to be in what we call as a normal, because Kashmir definitely is not a normal space. Have you, if you have been, have you felt the difference?
Well, I've been outside Kashmir, but it was like in winters for a week or two, or maybe a month at max. And I did feel a difference, kind of. You see, I am an introvert, and
Right.
I am mostly inside my room. So the only difference I felt in Kashmir and the outside Kashmir was that of the internet,
Okay, so
because
you
I was
had access to
I
internet in
yes
Kashmir.
I usually prefer to be inside my room, and it was the same outside Kashmir.
Right. Isa, tell us about your aspirations. What do you want to do in your life and what are your
Yeah,
dreams?
I I have taken non-med, so it's obvious that I want to be an engineer,
Right.
but I want to do something for my people,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think there's anything better than establishing a business and then helping the people of my homeland with the profits that I earn from it.
So you want to help the people of Kashmir, of your homeland.
Yes. Yes,
All
because
right.
I've faced this Kashmiriyat, as they put it,
Mm-hmm.
and I think people deserve better.
You think Kashmiri people deserve better? Do you think Kashmiri student deserves a better standard of
Of
education?
course, of course they do.
And yet there are students who have excelled a lot, despite whatever conditions Kashmiri students, study in. Do you have inspirations? Do you have people to look up to and see that, okay, he did or she did it, so why can I not do it?
Well, I guess the answer is yes. I
Mm-hmm.
have a cousin. I have a cousin who managed to qualify these SAT exams,
Mm-hmm.
and now she's studying abroad, and she's taking part in programs, and that, I guess, that inspired me to take SAT. I was unaware of this exam before that,
Mm-hmm.
and I think following her lead would actually help me to fulfill my dreams.
So you have one example in your own family, and apart
Yes,
from
I
that,
do.
in the history of Kashmir, do you see anybody else?
Uh, I don't think so. I don't have any other inspiration in Kashmir apart
All
from
right. All right, Isa, that was a great discussion with you. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for putting your views, and we wish you luck. And
thank you.
we wish and pray things get better for you and us both in Kashmir and elsewhere. Thank you so much for joining us, Isa.
Well, it was a pleasure for me.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Now, with that very insightful discussion and some poetic sense of motivation from Mr. Muneer Alam, that was a very great show tonight. And with that, we wrap the show tonight. But you can share and watch this video on the social media pages of Salam Media. And have a great night. We'll see you next Tuesday. Assalamu alaikum.